Somewhere in a garage right now, a Mercedes-AMG is being traded in for a lease on something newer, and the owner has no idea what they just gave away. For years, AMG had a reputation problem. Loud badge, fast toy, depreciation trap for people who wanted to feel quick at a stoplight. That reputation cost collectors a fortune, because while everyone chased Ferrari and Porsche prices upward, Mercedes-AMG was quietly building some of the rarest, most over-engineered performance cars ever stamped with a three-pointed star. Some of these cars were built in numbers so small that most enthusiasts have never stood next to one. Others were dismissed as tired family sedans and sold for scrap money before anyone realized what was hiding under the hood. A few were never supposed to reach the public at all. The mistake collectors keep making isn't chasing the wrong car. It's ignoring the AMG cars sitting quietly in plain sight, undervalued, underestimated, and disappearing fast. This is a countdown of 10 Mercedes-AMG cars on track to be worth a fortune, starting with the ones people are already regretting they let go, and ending with a machine so rare it may become the most valuable Mercedes ever built. A man in Germany sold his Mercedes C36 AMG for less than the price of a used motorcycle. He didn't know he was holding a piece of history. He just wanted the space in his garage back. That car was the first factory AMG Mercedes ever sold to the public. Before it, AMG was an outside tuning shop. After it, Mercedes brought them in-house and changed the company forever. Historical records show fewer than 6,000 C36 AMGs were ever built for worldwide markets, and most of them are gone now, crashed, rusted, or scrapped by owners who saw a used sedan instead of a founding document. Number 9 tells a similar story, but with a twist collectors love. The E55 AMG from the W210 generation looked like something your accountant would drive. Wood trim, leather seats, a shape nobody would call exciting. Underneath, it hid a hand-built V8 that could outrun sports cars twice its price. AMG called this formula the sleeper, and this was one of the purest examples ever made. What most people miss is that AMG engines from this era were assembled by a single technician, whose name was stamped on a plate under the hood. One person, one engine, start to finish. Try finding that level of craftsmanship in anything built today. Number 8 moves the story forward. The C63 Black Series from 2011 was never meant to be comfortable. It was built to be brutal, wider body, stripped interior, a naturally aspirated V8 that AMG themselves admitted was one of the last of its kind before turbocharging took over. Auction results reveal this car has already climbed well past its original sticker price, and the gap keeps widening every year. 3 different decades, 3 different shapes. The same mistake, repeated by 3 different generations of owners who looked at these cars and saw ordinary transportation instead of engineering history slowly disappearing in daily traffic. Serious collectors already know something casual buyers don't. AMG's real value was never in the cars that looked expensive. It was in the ones nobody respected. But the next car on this list wasn't built to be respected on pavement at all. It was built to survive terrain that would destroy almost anything else with a license plate. AMG almost didn't build this car. Internally, engineers worried it broke too many of their own rules. The SL65 Black Series was a convertible, a car type nobody associates with brute force. But this one carried a twin-turbo V12 tuned for over 650 horsepower, dropped into a chassis stripped down and widened until it barely resembled a comfortable Grand Tourer anymore. Historical records show AMG built fewer than 350 units worldwide. Most were bought by collectors who never intended to drive them daily, which means low-mileage examples are becoming almost impossible to find in original condition. What most people miss is the risk AMG took here. A soft-top convertible with that much power shouldn't have worked physically. Chassis flex, weight distribution, heat management, all of it fought against the engineers. They solved it anyway, and the result became one of the most respected open-top performance cars AMG has ever built. Collectors who understand this engineering gamble treat surviving examples less like cars and more like solved problems worth preserving. Then there's number 6, and this one confuses people the first time they see it. The G63 AMG 6x6 doesn't look like a Mercedes. It looks like military hardware that escaped a defense contract. 6 wheels, portal axles lifting the body over a foot off the ground. a twin-turbo V8 borrowed straight from AMG's performance division, built into a truck designed to survive terrain that would destroy a normal SUV in minutes. Mercedes never intended this for mass production. It was born from a Special Forces vehicle request, and only a small run ever reached private buyers, mostly in the Gulf region. Very few made it to Western collectors. Someone who owned one early on reportedly sold it for close to its original price years ago, unaware that surviving examples would later trade for 2 to 3 times that number. That regret gets repeated in collector circles more than almost any other AMG story. Two machines. One built to defy delicate engineering limits, the other built to defy terrain itself. Both prove the same point. AMG's boldest ideas rarely looked safe on paper. The next machine on this list didn't just push a limit. It pushed AMG's own engineers into an argument about whether it should exist at all. Inside AMG's own test program, engineers reportedly disagreed about releasing this car at all. Some felt it was too extreme for a customer to handle without race training. The AMG GT Black Series became the answer to a fight between ambition and caution, and ambition won. Under the hood sits the most powerful production V8 AMG has ever built, developed using knowledge pulled directly from their motorsport program. This wasn't a marketing claim. Engineering data from AMG's DTM and GT3 race efforts fed directly into this car's development, something the brand doesn't do casually. Production stayed intentionally limited. Mercedes never released exact global numbers publicly, but dealer allocation lists made it clear early on that demand outpaced supply almost instantly. Collectors who secured one near MSRP found themselves holding a car that appreciated within months, not years. Auction results reveal certain low-mileage examples selling well above their original window sticker price soon after delivery, a pattern usually reserved for far more exotic machinery from Italy or England. What most people miss is why this happened so fast. AMG built this car during a transitional moment, right as the company began shifting toward hybrid and electrified performance platforms. Enthusiasts recognized what that meant immediately. This was one of the last purely combustion-driven halo cars AMG would build in this form. No electric motor assistance. No compromise for emissions targets. Just a naturally engineered, track-focused machine built the old way, right before that era closed. Someone who declined their dealer allocation, assuming they could simply order one later, learned the hard way that the window doesn't reopen. Waitlist closed. Prices climbed. The regret for missing that window has become a familiar story inside AMG collector communities online. Which collectors would you never sell your car to, even for a serious profit? That question alone sparks entire threads among AMG owners who understand what they're really holding. This car proved AMG could build something genuinely rare in the modern era. But rarity like this has a history at AMG, and it traces back to a race car nobody was ever supposed to be allowed to drive on public roads. To compete at the top level of GT racing in the 1990s, the rules demanded something almost absurd. Manufacturers had to build a road-legal version of their race car for the public. Most treated this as a formality. AMG treated it as an opportunity nobody else was ready to take seriously. The result was the CLK GTR, and the road version barely qualifies as a compromise. Underneath the bodywork sat a 6.9-liter V12 originally built for endurance racing, producing over 600 horsepower in a carbon fiber chassis that shared more with a Le Mans prototype than anything sold in a dealership. Historical records show Mercedes built only 25 road-going examples worldwide, a number so small that most lifelong car enthusiasts will never see one in person, let alone sit inside it. What most people miss is how this car performed before it ever reached customers. The race version dominated FIA GT competition in its debut season, winning championships against factory teams from Porsche and McLaren. AMG didn't build a watered-down tribute car for the street. They essentially handed private buyers a genuine race winner with license plates bolted on, at a price that seemed unthinkable at the time and looks almost laughably low by today's standards. One early buyer reportedly used their CLK GTR sparingly for a few years before selling it to fund a more practical collection of classic Porsches. Collectors who track ownership history point to that decision as one of the more painful trades in modern car collecting memory, given how the GTR's value has moved since. Would you have kept a race-winning homologation car, or traded it for something safer and easier to live with? That decision separates casual buyers from serious collectors every time this story comes up. The CLK GTR proved AMG could build something almost too extreme to legally sell. But one relative in this same bloodline pushed exclusivity even further, wearing a badge borrowed from one of the most respected names in motorsport history. Two bidders once pushed each other so hard for an SLR McLaren 722 edition that the final price left the auction house's own specialist stunned. Neither one wanted the story to end with the other person owning it. The SLR 722 edition carries a name most casual buyers never understand. The number honors Sterling Moss's legendary 1955 Mille victory, where he raced under car number 722. AMG built this edition as a tribute to that win, tuning the supercharged V8 higher, sharpening the suspension, and stripping weight until the car felt closer to a race machine wearing a road-legal badge. Mercedes and McLaren built it together, blending British chassis engineering with AMG's performance philosophy. What most people miss is how this car was treated when new. Early reviewers respected it, but casual buyers often saw only the price tag and the unusual styling, comparing it unfavorably to more conventional supercars from Italy. That hesitation created an opening. Serious collectors who understood the motorsport connection quietly acquired examples, while public opinion was still lukewarm. That patience paid off. Auction results reveal 722 editions now regularly outperform standard SLR models by a wide margin, and bidding wars between determined collectors have become common whenever a clean example reaches the block. One consignor reportedly turned down a strong private offer years earlier, betting that a public auction would draw a better result. The gamble worked, and the final sale price validated a decision that could easily have gone the other way. Someone who sold their 722 edition early, frustrated by slow appreciation in its first few years on the market, later watched the same generation of cars post dramatically stronger results at auction. That kind of story repeats often enough among AMG collectors that it's become almost a cautionary tale about patience. Which of these cars do you think is the most underrated on this entire list? That's a question worth sitting with, because the next car may be the answer more often than people expect. The SLR proved that motorsport heritage can quietly outperform flashier competition. But before AMG built tributes to racing legends, they built the car that made AMG a legend in racing itself. Mercedes engineers didn't want to build this car. Some considered it beneath the brand's image, a boxy sedan wearing a wing large enough to look like a mistake. The 190e February 5th, 16 Evolution 2 almost never happened because of internal resistance, but German touring car rules left Mercedes no choice. To compete at the top level of DTM racing, they needed to homologate a road-legal version first. Historical records show only 502 units were ever built, the minimum number required by racing regulations at the time. Nothing more. That number was never meant to satisfy collectors decades later. It was meant to satisfy a rulebook. What most people miss is how strange this car looked next to Mercedes' usual lineup. The oversized rear wing, aggressive front splitter, and flared arches clashed completely with the brand's conservative reputation in the late 1980s. Buyers at the time weren't entirely sure what to make of it. Some dealers reportedly struggled to move units at first, unsure how to market a race-bred sedan to customers expecting quiet luxury. On the track, the Evolution 2 erased any doubt. It dominated DTM competition and became one of the most successful touring car platforms of its era, beating factory rivals from BMW and Audi. That success on Sunday translated directly into demand on Monday, but by then production had already ended. Supply could never catch up to what the car had proven on track. A dealer who held unsold Evolution 2 inventory into the following year reportedly discounted the remaining cars just to clear space, unaware they were giving away what would become one of the most culturally significant Mercedes ever built. Collectors who bought during that clearance window are now sitting on some of the strongest returns in the brand's history. Would you have bought a race-homologated sedan nobody understood yet, or waited to see if it proved itself first? That patience question defines almost every great collector decision on this list. This car built AMG's reputation on the track before AMG ever became a household name. But the final car on this list isn't really a tribute to racing history at all. It's a piece of Formula One technology that Mercedes somehow made street legal. Mercedes announced this car in 2017. It didn't reach a single customer until 2022. For years, engineers weren't even sure it was possible to build at all. The AMG One, also known as Project One, tried to do something no manufacturer had attempted before. Take a genuine Formula One hybrid power unit and make it survive on public roads. The 1.6-liter turbocharged V6 at its core was never designed for daily driving. In race trim, this architecture was built to run at extreme RPM for short bursts, then get rebuilt after a handful of races. AMG had to re-engineer it to survive years of ordinary use without falling apart, something F1 engineers openly doubted was realistic when the project began. What most people miss is how close this project came to failing publicly. Reported delays stretched across nearly 5 years, well beyond the original delivery promise made to depositors. Some early reservation holders reportedly walked away during that wait, frustrated by the silence and unsure the car would ever arrive. Those cancellations meant almost nothing at the time. Today, those same collectors are watching completed AMG Ones trade privately for multiples of the original price, while their canceled deposit became nothing more than a story they tell reluctantly. Mercedes built the AMG One in extremely limited numbers, reportedly around 275 units worldwide, each one hand-assembled with direct involvement from Mercedes' Formula One division. For electric motors work alongside the combustion engine, an architecture pulled almost directly from active race cars competing at the highest level of motorsport. Nothing else with license plates shares this level of direct F1 lineage. Which of these 10 cars would you regret walking away from the most? For many serious collectors, this is the only acceptable answer. Auction specialists already treat surviving examples less like cars and more like rolling pieces of Formula One history, priced accordingly. Some analysts believe completed, well-documented examples could eventually surpass the value of the most expensive real estate many owners will ever purchase in their lifetime. Every car on this list taught the same lesson in a different way. AMG's real value was never obvious at first glance. It hid inside sedans dismissed as ordinary, race cars nobody expected to reach the street, and a hybrid hypercar that almost never made it to production at all. 10 cars. 10 different reasons collectors overlooked them at the exact moment they should have paid closest attention. That's the pattern worth remembering. AMG's most valuable cars were rarely the ones marketed as special. They were sedans mistaken for daily drivers, race cars forced into road-legal existence by a rulebook, and a hypercar so difficult to build that some of its own believers walked away before it was finished. Every single time, the people who understood the engineering behind the badge outperformed the people who only saw the price tag. That's the real lesson behind AMG's history. Value hides in plain sight, and it rewards patience over hesitation almost every time. So here's a question worth answering honestly. Out of all 10 cars on this list, which one would you be kicking yourself for selling 5 years from now? Drop your answer below, because some of the best stories in this comment section come from people who already own one of these and let it go too soon. And if this list proved anything, it's that AMG has more hidden fortunes buried in its back catalog than most people realize. The next video uncovers 5 more that almost nobody is talking about yet, and one of them might be sitting closer to you than you think.